Welcome everyone to our deep dive into some of the sea's most eerie mysteries. A trio of uncanny maritime encounters that will definitely send shivers down your spine. We're talking about ghostly happenings at lighthouses and on coastal cliffs.
I'm all nerves, excited for this discussion. Let's start with that true sea horror, right? It's based on Nate's meticulous account, isn't it?
Exactly. Nate, a man of order, a Coast Guard veteran who's not one for ghost stories, tells it all as if it were a factual log. He was stationed at Matinus Rock, isolated off the coast of Maine, remote, jagged, with only a boat or a helicopter access. And he was with a guy named Russell.
Yeah, right. And the daily routine was almost painfully mundane, checking the beacon, batteries, fuel, until uh, the night started doing something bizarre.
Yes, on the fourth night, something was off. Nate wakes around 2 a.m., feeling something was, sort of, wrong. The light, which should have been rotating smoothly, had stopped turning. They found a dark, slimy cloth jammed in the mechanism. It smelled of rotting seaweed, like it had come straight from the depths.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's chilling. And then, on the fifth night, the very same thing happened, but with a twist. A soaked red shawl with crustaceans clinging to it.
Absolutely. It's almost like the mechanism was uh, being sabotaged by something from the sea. And after these bizarre findings, panic set in, locked doors, blocked stairwells, almost as if they were trying to keep something out, or
Right.
in, I guess.
Then there's that unsettling detail. On night seven, Russell started whispering, talking about footsteps and someone watching from the rocks. How do you even begin to explain that, especially from someone not prone to imagination?
Exactly. Nate was all about facts. And then it escalates on night 11, when they find the beacon room door wide open and the bulb unscrewed, just placed neatly on the floor. And then Russell's chilling admission, I saw a hand, it came out of the wall.
Yeah, that detail always sent my imagination reeling. But here's a question. Isn't it possible that under extreme stress, the mind might see things that aren't there?
Hmm, that's a fair point. But remember, Nate is not one to embellish. His account is repeated every time with the same details, which is hard to dismiss as just stress induced hallucinations.
Yeah. And the emergency evacuation, it all became too much. Plus, there was that disturbing radio message with the, he's here. That call wasn't even timely, right?
Right. Nate made his distress call at dawn, and a garbled, almost prophetic voice came in earlier. Nothing added up, and Russell never returned to the Coast Guard. It left Nate with a mystery he couldn't resolve and a warning never to go back to Matinus Rock.
A haunting start to a series of encounters. Now, shifting gears a bit, what about the Montauk Cliff Walk encounter? That one really stands out, with a twist of urban legend meets real danger.
Oh, absolutely. So here we have a completely different scene. Lockdown, boredom, and even Tinder leading to this encounter. The protagonist meets Soph, and their flirtation leads them to take a moonlit walk along the cliffs behind Montauk Lighthouse in Long Island. Imagine that setting. Dark parking lots, off-season grounds, moonlight bathing the jagged stones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the atmosphere is instantly unsettling, and then things get really odd. Soph hears her name called and sees a hooded figure. The nonchalant remark, "Y'all want to buy some Coke?" is just so bizarre in that context.
It's like, you know, merging the mundane with the paranormal. And then one follower isn't enough. Two more men appear, and suddenly the couple are surrounded. Their escape, bolting to the car while the attackers ramp up the physical threat, like pulling doors, kicking panels, it's all so visceral. Also,
Yeah, exactly. The element of randomness, that seemingly everyday remark combined with stalking, really underscores the unpredictable nature of horror here, doesn't it? But I have to ask, some might argue that in these cases, Could it have been a case of mistaken identity or just a very dangerous urban criminal rather than a supernatural event?
I get where you're coming from, but when you combine that with the other stories, a pattern emerges of places, lighthouses, cliffs, where the veil between facts and the unexplained seems conditioned by the environment. It's almost as though the locations themselves, with their isolation and history, warp events.
Exactly. Interesting perspective. And there's the final account of the unnamed lighthouse, Gregory's friend Ian's encounter. That one has such an eerie minimalist vibe, doesn't it?
Definitely. Ian, an experienced diver and salvager, takes on a solitary 4-day assignment at an abandoned lighthouse off Washington State. Right from the start, it's disconcerting. A maintenance closet, stuck shut, suddenly open. Inside, a moss-covered box. He doesn't even open it, just closes the door.
Yeah. Then come the night, footsteps ascending instead of descending, the box later found outside, and those bare footprints marking a strange journey to the cliff edge. Not away, but right up to the boundary. It's like the location was drawing him towards something.
Indeed. And then the knocking begins. 3 slow knocks from behind the wall, a foreboding message that something or someone is inside. Ian eventually calls for an emergency evacuation and waits, all while fog and isolation compound his fear.
Right. He hears footsteps trailing behind him, but weirdly enough, he sees nothing. It's that classic, unexplainable moment where you know you're not alone, yet can't pinpoint the presence.
Exactly. And after all that, he leaves and never takes on another contract again. When questioned about it, his answer was blunt. Some places are meant to be left alone. It's a sobering statement, a warning to respect the unknown.
Yeah, that's profound. Each of these accounts, though unique, seems to hover around the same themes: isolation, the relentless, almost omnipresent nature of the sea's mystery, and environments that amplify the terror of the unknown. Would you say there's a link between these places?
I think there is. They all share a common thread of isolation and the raw intensity of the maritime environment. Their remote locations, whether it's Matinus Rock, Montauk, or an unnamed rock island, create conditions where the natural and supernatural seem to blend. It's like the environment itself is an active participant in these eerie occurrences.
True. And what's intriguing is how these tales mix tangible details, like the physical evidence of a red shawl with crustaceans or a hand emerging from a wall, with more abstract fears stirred by loneliness and nature's vastness.
Right. I mean, the physical evidence grounds the stories in reality, which makes the inexplicable events even harder to discard as mere imagination. Nate's and Ian's experiences are so meticulously recounted, even by skeptics, that they challenge our understanding of what is real.
Absolutely. I also find it fascinating how these narratives place human frailty against the relentless force of nature. Here you have seasoned professionals, the Coast Guard veteran and the seasoned diver, and yet in these moments they are equally overwhelmed by forces beyond their control.
Yeah, that's a core part of the horror. When someone who's, used to order and control, like Nate, meets the unpredictability of the sea, it really drives home the message that some aspects of nature, some mysteries, are just unsolvable.
Exactly. And it's that clash, the clash between human orderliness and nature's chaotic depths, that captivates us. But don't you think, though, that sometimes these stories might feed our own fears of isolation rather than any real supernatural presence?
That's a fair challenge. I believe these stories work both ways. On one hand, the detailed, almost forensic recounting lends them a gravitas that argues against them being mere paranoia. On the other, they certainly amplify our natural anxieties about isolation and the unknown. It's a balance between
Right, I see
undeniable
that.
physical evidence and psychological terror.
It all makes you wonder if these locations, lighthouses, cliff walks, are not just backdrops, but catalysts for dark human emotions. It reminds me of how literature often treats lighthouses as symbols of both hope and isolation.
Absolutely. It's like they double as beacons of safety and signals of impending doom. When these stories mix in real-world conditions with supernatural hints, a suspended red shawl, a moss-covered box, mysterious knocks, they blur the line between our comfort in the known and terror of the unknown.
hmm And the recurring detail of being watched or followed adds that psychological intensity. Whether it's footfalls on the stairs or a hooded figure trailing a couple along a cliff, that constant sense of surveillance can unnerve even the most stoic individuals.
Right. It's like our mind knows that in these remote, desolate places, every sound, every shadow carries a weight, a potential threat. And as much as science tries to explain everything, experiences like these leave open a door for mystery and wonder, and sometimes for terror.
Yeah. So, in wrapping up, it seems these accounts, while very different in their specifics, collectively remind us that the sea and its lighthouses carry a legacy of both beauty and darkness. They force us to confront what's beyond our control, don't they?
Exactly. And they invite us to consider the layers of history, nature, and personal experience. Whether it's a carefully logged Coast Guard report, a chance encounter on a dark cliff, or a diver's retreat from his calling, all speak to the compelling mystery that the sea, in its vastness, continues to hold over us.
Right. Truly, these stories are a reminder that some mysteries, like the secrets whispered by lighthouses and cliffs, should perhaps be respected and sometimes left alone.
Exactly. Thanks for the chat. Hope everyone's as captivated by these maritime mysteries as we are. And remember, sometimes it's the things we don't fully understand that make life most intriguing.